least prepared as I've ever felt going into a season opener for obvious reasons that we've all been focusing on new things, on never spent so much time on where somebody sits on the bench and how far they are apart from somebody who's tested positive or negative. So we will probably not have, I know around here saying X percent of our playbook going in is probably not a good thing to say, but we have a very low percentage of our playbook in, and that's okay. I think our kids are excited. I think our kids are happy. I think our kids are healthy, and I know they're ready to play. So I think the rest of it will work itself out. It's just going to be I expect some emotion tomorrow from players, coaches, all of us that, it's finally here. It's finally happening. I've tried to, get myself as ready as I can. But it's, again, I think it's fair to say is the least prepared team, but the most excited to play in 21 years of coaching.
Jason, you want to go ahead and lead us off?
Coach, I go back to our first Zoom we had with you, and you talked about how offensively you were going to be fine. Defense was the thing that needed to get improved. How has the defense improved since that time and over, I guess, a month, 6 weeks, whatever it's been?
Well, I gave Todd 80% of the practice time. So normally it would have been flip-flopped. We would have spent 80% of our practice time on offense and 20% on defense. We flip-flopped that. If y'all had been coming to practices and we would have been having our normal press conferences, I was going old school Gary Blair. We were going to have our press conferences halfway through practice. I would have gone out, started practice, and I would have scheduled our press conferences right in the middle of it, left the floor, let Todd have it. This year, I've got Pauline and Amber really working hard because, Amber can be on the floor with us a little bit this year because of the COVID rules, just in case there's a game when Todd's missing. I want us to have one voice as much as we can, but we've worked at it. We've provided more time. We've allotted more time in practice. And I think our personnel's improved in that area, the focus. Anytime you focus on something more, you get better at it. We make great strides in it. If we had the national media coverage that everybody that football has, people would have been talking about Todd Schaefer like they talk about Barry Odom. I mean, the difference in our defense from when it became a sole focus of his has been it's been remarkable. So I use that analogy as a positive way because Coach Odom deserves every bit of credit he gets. But, I mean, that's what Todd's done for our defense, and I think it's what results in us being able to win games in different fashion. So putting more emphasis on it, letting Todd do his thing with that. I think our players now have a full year of understanding his standards and expectations of what it's going to take. And Slocum's a good defender. That's a thing that not only is she a good offensive, but she's a really good defender. Michaela Daniels was one of the best defenders in our league last year. And Chelsea's in the best shape that she's been in since she's been on campus. Taylor Thomas the same. So then you get Jalen Mason back, who from day one, you can go back 3-4 years, I guess 4 years now. One of the first things I ever said about Jalen Mason is she's the best talker on defense that I've ever coached. And we missed that last year. So we get that back and then throw in Marquisha Davis, who's making that jump, freshman and sophomore year jump. And we can put a pretty good defensive lineup out there on the floor. So long answer to your question, but the short answer was more emphasis on it and giving Coach Schaefer 80% of the practice time.
Oh boy, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, can you just talk about what kind of challenge Oral Roberts presents? Looking at them, very young team coming in, right?
Yeah, and no idea what to expect. I mean, there's 7 new faces that I know they're going to be counting on. We know how good Kelly Jo is and what she's done to us in the past. She's been a really hard person for us to guard. I know Misty and Lee and that staff are always going to put together something. Last year they thought they weren't – let's just not guard this freshman they got named Daniels. We don't know anything about her. And she airballed her first shot, and they're like, I looked over there, and you're like, okay, here we go. Well, then she made her next 6. So I know they're going to do something. Lee's been in too many games. Misty's coached too many big games. There's going to be something unique, and they've got personnel that we have no idea about. We have no film on. So a concern that they are always prepared to do what they do and do it well. And we have no idea what that is on game one, and we'll have to figure it out as we go along. So that's the main concern. And then just kind of going back, piggybacking on the last answer, I don't know how we're going to handle our emotions. I really don't. Being out there, being excited, being over anxious, I don't know whether we're rested or rusted. I don't know whether we're going to be too hyped or not hyped enough. But just being able to adjust, and you made reference when we were opening up, being that oak tree that bends a little bit and having some adversity, being able to deal with it, because it's going to happen. It's going to come.
Brett Dolan, go ahead.
And Mike, with 4 games in 5 days, are you even more conscious about the minutes, the substitutions, making sure somebody didn't play 30 minutes? How do you navigate that?
We started that last week, actually, Brett, even in our practices, like how many teams is Taylor on, how many teams is – we started monitoring workload last week to make sure that we give ourselves a chance to play 4 in 5 days. But when you get game time, it's the one that's in front of you. You don't limit playing time. You got to find a way to end up with more points than they do at the end of the game. So we won't limit it when it comes time. But you're hopeful that the plan, even if you do have to play kids extended minutes, that we've saved their legs during the week. So much, I think a lot of times people look at a minutes played on a box score and season cumulative box score, and they don't realize you can save their legs in practice. And that's what I think we do a really good job of. So I'm not worried about, and we've got quality depth. But we did start that. It is obviously a factor, but it's really, really far down our list of concerns.
Russell, you got anything?
Coach, does this kind of feel like Christmas Eve with the excitement level, but then you don't know exactly what you're going to get tomorrow or the rest of the season for that matter?
Yeah, and that tells me what you've done Christmas Eve growing up the first all your life. Mine's more first day of school. I've been having that reoccurring dream, and I do it every single year, but I literally have it every night for about the last month, that I have been in charge of some massive group. One of them was a golf buddy trip, and we somehow got on Augusta. And then we got there, and I screw something up that doesn't allow us to get on. I don't have a collared shirt, and the Sonic was out of them. I couldn't go buy me a Sonic collared shirt to get onto it. So we don't get to play, or a reunion or something. But that's the anxiety of first day of school for us. Christmas Eve for us was we always got presents on Christmas Eve. So I can't, you must not have. You must have had to wait till Christmas morning. But it does, yes, fit that. For us, it feels like first day of school. And, just always concerned that you haven't done enough. I think it's what that is. Hopefully we play well, and I'll be able to get some sleep on the airplane. But, yes, to answer your question, Christmas Eve-ish, excitement, uncertainty, and not only that, probably a big Christmas, like a big, like a white Christmas, or a Christmas when all the relatives are in town, because we haven't competed. This is the longest stretch that any of us on that bench tomorrow have gone without competition in our life. I tried to get Zimmerman to play darts the other night just to keep me sharp. He won't play. I'm looking, and they are too. This is the longest gap any of these kids have ever gone without having something that had competition tied to it. And I don't know how they're going to react, and that's part of that uncertainty. And it is exciting. It is fun. It is good. And I probably tend to focus on the negatives too much, but I hope the kids aren't. I know they're ready to play. They've been eager for a month now.
I got to give Z the floor after that. Z, you got anything for Coach?
Rebuttal. Yeah, rebuttal time.
Well, I'd whoop him in darts, but no, I'm just kidding. He's really good. Those type of games, those kind of nighttime games, he's really good at those.
That's a good way to put it.
Those after 5 p.m. games, he's outstanding. Coach, I sent Amber my list of greatest Razorbacks, and that's private. I can't get that out. I get in trouble.
Yeah,
but
you would.
Lee Mayberry. You remember what Lee was on that list?
Yep.
You remember?
Yep. Number 3.
Number 3. So what are you going to say on that? Are you going to call him like the 9th so I can get Lee motivated for tomorrow? Are you going to call him like the 11th greatest Razorback or 14th greatest Razorback or something?
No, I got him at number 3 too. That's the only thing you and I have agreed on since I can't even remember, maybe college. But
since college days, okay.
It's something about what time does Doc's open? I think it's probably the last time me and you completely agreed on something. But no, I think you're right. I think anybody that has been around Razorback sports for at least, 25 or 30 years. You might not win that argument, but man, I'd love to be his attorney because I could sell it, man. I could defend him. Or whatever. I could sell that being the case. So many, and then too, I think you and I have a unique perspective of Lee because we got to see him after basketball too.
Mhm.
There's nobody that smiles more than that guy. There's nobody. He's just never in a bad mood. He's, I always say he's the male version of Amber Shirey,
That's right.
and just he's so. I went back and watched our game film from last year, and I locked in on Lee, and you could tell it was his scout. You could tell it was his scout by the way he reacted, and he still couldn't help but smile. Even though they were, we went through a stretch there where we were on fire, and he just shake his head with that Lee Mayberry smile. So it's always fun to hear the reaction our crowd gives him. We always, amp it up a little bit, but I will get my autograph before the game, and I will wait. But I am as a Razorback fan first and foremost, and Lee gave me a lot of good moments as a fan.
Yeah, good stuff.
Tyler Cash, you got anything for Coach?
Yeah, hey, Coach. Just what are you expecting out of Jalen this year, just on the court, and then also just the emotions for her, just of getting to be back out there?
Yeah, it's going to be good for both of us. I know really good for her and certainly good for our team. I am going to bring her off the bench. She's going to come in and fill a role to where when she comes in the game, she'll be the first sub off the bench, and it'll be right there. The first one we make will be Jalen Mason. I don't know who it'll be for yet, but then she's going to stay and play through about 3 rotations of everybody else because she knows everything we do. She literally knows me as well as anybody that's in that locker room because she's been here. She was the only one in that locker room that first day I showed up. The only one. Taylor wasn't here yet. Macy and Grace weren't here yet. Jalen Mason's sitting there. So she knows how much confidence I have in her. She knows how valuable her role is to what we do and how versatile she's able to be playing multiple spots for us. We try to say we're positionless. So spots on the floor. In ways she can impact the game. So I hope she's excited. I know it was a difficult decision for her last year to choose the red shirt and watch the success that we had. She looks like a damn fortune teller now, though, or a seer of, hey, I set out the right year. There was no NCAA tournament. So, but she's an incredible Razorback, and I'm looking forward to see how she, from her new role, is able to star.
Any other questions regarding the Oral Roberts game tomorrow?
Hey, Coach.
Yeah.
Just one last thing, and this is really all season, but, you got with Chelsea and Destiny and all, so many great guards and all the attention they get. Hey, Amber Ramirez last year was on fire the whole year, and she's kind of like that middle child, People don't want to talk about her.
I know it.
She is a great shooter. What's it like to have someone just kind of laying in the weeds right there that people don't talk about that much with Amber?
No, I guarantee you she gets talked about on the scouting reports, and it doesn't bother her because of the type of kid she is. She's all about knowing that her teammates and coaches have confidence in her. But she stretches the floor. She is in range to where 99 times out of the other 29 games you play all year, you're probably telling your kid, back up. That kid's not in range there. But that opens up driving lanes for Mac. It opens up driving lanes for all those people. And it's such an underrated thing. And it's hard to do, to go over there and plant yourself in the corner or plant yourself at 35-foot mark. But she's so good at being there early, ready to catch and shoot. There's been a lot of talk about how her shot's not pure and all that. I think it's pure coming through the net, and that's the only time I really care about it. But she can really, really put a lot of stress on your defense. And I think that's what makes her so good and makes her she's a part of all of our best lineups. And we can change those other people in there, and we can substitute Aaron and Taylor and Macy and the Destinies inside, and her lineups stay pretty consistent because of the threat that she provides with floor spacing. And she's our best pick and roll player too. Last year Tennessee tried to guard her a certain way when we just kept putting that kid in pick and rolls, and she makes great decisions. And outside of Jalen Mason in the mid-range, that's who I'd like taking an elbow jump shot to win the national championship sometime.
All right, with that, we will switch gears here. Coach, you want to talk a little bit about the Florida Gulf Coast Showcase this weekend?
Wasn't what we initially had on our schedule. We were supposed to go to California to play in a tournament in L.A., not L.A., but at Loyola Marymount out in Marina Del Rey. That fell apart really, really early in COVID. So we were able to kind of be a little bit selective. And fortunately, a spot opened up. UCLA dropped out of that tournament down there, and we knew it had a great field. Then a couple of more teams dropped out of it, and I get the call, or Todd calls me and says, hey, tournament's still on, but now we have to play Wake Forest at Florida Gulf Coast and Maryland. And that was a little different than the opponents that had been normally scheduled. Knowing that we already had Baylor, at that time we still had Gonzaga and some other people and Arizona and people like that. So once we lost the Gonzaga and the Arizona game, then we needed to have a couple of quality opponents in there, and said, let's find out. I mean, on Sunday we're going to have played 4 games. I don't think anybody else in the country will have played 4 games. So we'll know as much about our team as anybody in the country come Sunday night. The event is really, I think, at the forefront. A lot of these MTEs have been shutting down, whereas this one, they are providing PCR testing for our fans on a day-to-day basis. We're in a bubble down there. I think it's the safest, most secure one that I've heard about. So we're going down there with a lot of confidence that we can compete safely and obviously against really, really good competition. Florida Gulf Coast wins 30 games a year. Wake Forest has 4 starters back off of a team that I think their expectations in the ACC are high. And, I mean, Maryland practices every day beneath the national championship banner. So there's some excitement there, obviously, because of the connection to Destiny as well. So a lot of intrigue with it. Really, really good event. And most importantly, checks the box to prepare us for the SEC.
Jason Carroll, go ahead.
Coach, you talked earlier about being nervous, whatever, about your team not knowing. I would have to think that this trip could settle some things with that, but also just the unknown of how you're going to travel and everything like that, just kind of getting you prepared for what's going to set up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you ought to walk down the hall and look in Coach Todd's board. Mine's blank behind me. His has seating a chart for a bus, a plane, the hotel. I mean, it's crazy the things that we are trying to mitigate, contact tracing. I mean, placing players that have already been in contact with COVID and people that haven't. We all say it all the time, little things matter. Man, this year the little things are minute. They're microscopic. And it will settle it. I think just to see it, that at the end of the day, after we deal with all that, it's still going to be basketball. I'm not going to take a tape measure and drop it and show them it's 10 feet tall like they did in Hoosiers or anything like that. They'll know. And I think we're going to have a little bit of benefit over the 3 teams down there, and that we're going to play on Wednesday. None of them will have played. So hopefully we got some jitters out of the way. And, yeah, I think you're exactly right. I do think it'll give us some, hey, this is still basketball. We got to deal with this other stuff that we've been doing all year long. But whenever we toss it up, we're not wearing masks, and we're not doing it. We're playing basketball. Let's go do it.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, you sort of answered, but I'll ask again in a different way. We talk about opponents and what opponents do and game plans, but in this particular case, are you more focused on what your team is doing and how your team is going to approach, maybe more so than the opponents?
Sure, yeah. I will tell you this, though. We started about 2 weeks ago, and we had a Florida Gulf Coast 2 days, and we had a Maryland 2 days, and we had a Wake Forest 2 days. We worked them in reverse. So we've worked against them. We've prepped like we normally would. So it's not going to be like the first time we see them is when we get to see them play down there. So we did, because it was at the beginning of the year and we were able to do some very specific things because of COVID, we were able to do more of that than we normally would have been able to do. Still, the focus will be on us. And then luckily or ironically, I don't know which word is better there, they defensively, all 3 kind of play the same. They're man-to-man oriented. They like to switch a lot of actions. They've got versatile kids who can do it. So we were there is a little bit of overlap. Obviously, their personnels are all very, very unique, but at the end of the day, some of their tactics are very similar. So we learned that through the prep for those three. We put those guys away over the weekend, and we really turned our focus to Oral Roberts all week this week. So I'm not worried about us overlooking Oral Roberts because of the focus we put on them. But we did prepare for the tournament knowing that there's very short turnaround time. And, Maryland's sitting there waiting on Sunday. Not that game's any more important than others, but I think it's the first matchup between ranked teams. I just saw where Louisville and UConn got canceled. So I think it may be the first matchup between some ranked teams going into the preseason, if we could beat Oral Roberts. I don't think
Go ahead.
I don't think there's a poll that would come out between then and then, so we could probably still be ranked.
Yeah, no question. But Mike, there's no way any group you're putting together is getting on Augusta National. Now, maybe you get on, but
I said it was a dream, Brett. Come on,
okay,
man.
all right. That's all I got for this round.
Hey, I will tell you this. I had it in my contract at Washington. If we won the national championship, they had to get me on Augusta. It was one of my friends told me, said, man, put something fun in there that you never think about, something. So I put that in there. And when we advanced to go to the Final Four, I walked by my sport administrator. I said, hey, you realize we're 2 wins away from you having to pull off the impossible? And he looked at me like, oh, my, how could I get him on Augusta? So I said it was a dream, and it is fully all of that stuff for sure. You're right.
Russell, go ahead.
Coach, do you know how many teammates Destiny still will know on Maryland and her
Not
connections
many.
there?
I don't know what the number is, but not many because, it was her freshman year there and natural matriculation. Most of them are going to be gone. And the 2 teammates that she came in there with transferred as well. So her freshman class is gone. One of them's at Georgia, and the other one I think is – I can't remember where the other one's at. So I don't think it's players. I think it's just more the connection to the university and the program. But that's a good thing to look up. I'll have Mario get on that. He'll have that answer for you.
Tyler Cash, you have anything?
Well, I wasn't, but now that you brought it up, you got anything like the Augusta clause in the Arkansas contract?
You know what? It's funny. I knew that was going to come. I couldn't think of anything. He asked me, and it was like – I was like, man – and at that point in time, I was going to say the Elotion, but I thought, man, surely I can find a way to get on the Elotion. Surely I can get on the Elotion. So I don't have that in a current contract, but believe me, I'm thinking something up for fun. Maybe I can get meet up with somebody famous. I don't know. It'll be something fun. I'll let you know when it comes up. Y'all won't have to Freedom of Information Act it. I'll make sure it's public knowledge.
All right, Z, you want to wrap us up here? Last question.
Yeah, Coach, one thing you didn't get enough credit for last year, I thought, was the defense, and people really struggled against the 3 against your team at times. And I've got to keep that going. What are you going to do? You're going to be man-to-man, keep them where they can't get them open looks? You're going to change it up? Because that was a really important part of you winning 24 games last year.
Well, we felt like, when Todd and I sat down and I turned the defense over to him, I said, the only thing I'm going to say is this. We feel like we want to get 3-pointers, layups, and free throws on offense. Let's take those away on defense. Whatever it takes. Take away the 3 things that we feel like give us the best chance to win against all our opponents. So, we do it with scheme is what I'd tell you, Matt. He does as good a job as anybody I've ever seen at being able to take multitudes of film clips and break it down into very few simple actions. No matter what play they run to get there, it ultimately comes down to these 3 things. And he does such a good job of scheming for it, and we prepare for a lot of different ways. We have zone, we have man. We don't press a lot, but we've done it from time to time because it helped. Anything we can do to drive them off that 3-point line, which is what we were the best at. We were the best at that. We did a really good job of that. And that goes back to my Greenwood education of 3 still worth more than 2. So force them to shoot that mid-range jump shot without fouling. We fouled too much last year. Hopefully that's an area of improvement. And then hopefully we can get a few more defensive rebounds. That will help our defense as much as anything. It's been the focus. But running them off the 3-point line, making sure we are rotating. we have learned by how people try to guard us that the open shot beats you more than a mismatch, or the open shot beats you more than a big switching onto a little. So scheming them up, preparing for it, and then going out and executing, being able to communicate that to them. We're really worried about communication this year because of the masks. And you don't hear as well. You can't lip read as well. We've worked on our hand signals. We had a silent practice where nobody could talk, and we just had to look at each other and really try to go through that. But I know that defensively is going to be improvement. We can improve offensively. We can take care of it a little better. We can make more shots. But our biggest area will still come on the defensive side. And I think that's always going to be a focus going into every game.